everybody. I'm just going to let people pop on. This is very informal. This is obviously last minute considering everything that's happened today. So I'm just going to let people jump on. We're just going to chat a little bit, recenter, maybe take some questions. It's obviously, it's been a day. It has been a day. And I just kind of want to be here for everybody and just chat a little bit. We're going to do some deep breaths. So what I do want you to do, we are going to do this together, is just take a deep breath. And I just want you to breathe in for 4 seconds. You're going to hold it for 4 and then exhale for 4. So and then we're going to do one more of those breathing in. Just take some deep breaths. Take some deep breaths back to recenter. I just got done leading a Bible study. It was part 1 of the creation of biblical womanhood, talking about how the ideals of what we consider Christian womanhood came to be. And we talked about a lot about Christ and women, and I just wanted to kind of be here for everybody. I don't really have a plan for this. I was really shook up about what happened. I was actually at the gym when they announced that Charlie Kirk had passed, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go home and I'm going to prepare this study. I didn't want to cancel it, and honestly, I'm so glad I didn't. So glad that we still had it, but I feel the heaviness that people are experiencing, and what I'd love to know is, you know, kind of any questions and kind of talk about next steps and some of the danger that has now kind of been put into place because of this. So if you don't know much about my background, I was raised very far alt-right Christian nationalist, grew up in a very militant kind of background, and this is extremely dangerous. Not just because we have, you know, an influencer being shot at a public speaking event, but because of this is going to be used to militarize opposition to the left, use of the National Guard, the military, and we don't know yet. What are you looking at, buddy? Is there a ghost in the corner? We don't know yet who the shooter was or what the motivation was. That doesn't matter, to be honest. It's going to be used as a talking point. It's going to be used as an excuse to escalate violence, particularly because it's the day before September 11th. And that it's going to be used to whip people up into a frenzy. And it's going to be used to demonize and attack other like left-leaning content creators. My management company reached out to me right away and they were like, you cannot do any live events without security. You just can't. And it's really become a safety issue. I had to order some bulletproof gear today and just consider my living situation and everything going on. So it is going to escalate. And again, they're going to use this. They're going to refer to it as terrorism. They're already ordering the flags at half-mast, which didn't happen for Melissa Hortman and her husband when they were politically assassinated. But this is going to be used to weaponize violence against the left, against anyone who looks like they're the left, anyone who doesn't fall in line. And again, right before September 11th, which I find extremely suspicious, is going to be, it's going to be also used as an excuse to censor people, because now they're going to say that anyone with left-leaning ideals is inciting violence, even though that's not historically been the case. So it's very, very serious. And not just from the perspective of, you know, like when I first saw the video and I was walking in the parking lot drinking my coffee, I'm like, how the fuck did we get here? Like and then there was the school shooting in Colorado, and it's like, this is not the country I thought I was in. Like, what is going on? And I was just kind of frozen. That's why I just took that video with me just in the background, because I'm like, I have nothing to say. I had to think about it for an hour before I could say anything. But it's going to make it very, very dangerous for anyone who is in opposition to Christian nationalism and to the right. And even if you do not have a large platform, or if you... sorry, Salem's butt. If you do... Salem, come say hi to everybody. Everybody loves to see a kitty face. This is my baby. It's my little void. Even if you're someone who doesn't have a platform, if you're in an area that is high conflict or a red state, be very cautious about your safety, about protecting yourself. This is not going to be good, because there's so many levels to it. There's one, now they have the excuse to use violence and be weaponized against the left, which again, I don't know this in any way for certain, but like the timing of it being right before September 11th, it's going to be used to weaponize and censor the left, be weaponized against the left and censor the left. But it's also, you know, whoever did this, for whatever their motivation was, they just turned Charlie Kirk into a martyr. They made him fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that makes his rhetoric even more dangerous than it already was. And it's gonna be a lot. So what I will say is, you know, the breathing exercises we did when I just got on, make sure you're taking deep breaths, make sure you're taking care of your health above all, but also really be considerate about your safety, self-defense. If you are attending protests, make sure you have a protest bag. I don't remember the company's name, but I'm sure you can Google it. There's a company that makes bulletproof hoodies. Have things to protect you from tear gas, have masks. And I hate to talk like that. I hate having to say that, but I would rather us be grounded in reality, and then you never need to use it, than for you not to have it if you need it. Make sure you know where all of your important documents are. Make sure you have plans. Like, just, this is a tipping point, and it is going to escalate very, very quickly. This is not going to be like a slow burn several months down the road. This is going to be something that happens very, very fast. And it's you know, also Russia's encroaching on Poland. So we're looking at World War type of tensions happening externally and Civil War tensions happening internally. And I just want to my first thing here is you're not alone. You're not alone, and I know it's overwhelming, and I know that it's terrifying, and for many of us, especially if you're a millennial, you're like, what the fuck? Like, why? We've just not had a break. You're not by yourself, and that you, by all means, take time when you need it and take care of yourself when you need it. I cannot recommend more to make sure that you are monitoring your sleep and that you're exercising and drinking water. Your health is your number one asset right now, not just because of this, but because of budget cuts and healthcare cuts. We have to be making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. But my second thing is also to just, I feel responsible, because I have a platform, to warn people, because I know how militant and violent this movement is, because I used to participate in it. I used to be part of this. I grew up in this. I was raised, from the time I was old enough to hold a gun, I was shooting a gun and learning gun safety and learning that the government might come and get us one day, like Ruby Ridge type shit, that the Democrats were going to hold me at gunpoint and tell me that if I believed in God, they were going to kill me and I needed to die for my faith. Like, this is what I grew up in. I know how militant this group is. Even in a lot of these fundamentalist circles, even with little children, they use language like soldier, war, fight. They've been preparing for this kind of war for a very long time, and this is their opportunity to do that. And I haven't got an update yet on Colorado, but for that to happen, like literally at the same time, was just, again, I was at a gym and I was like, I can't do this right now. I can't sit here and I can't take this. And, you know, I kind of feel like everybody's kind of in the same place where we're overwhelmed and we feel kind of like, it's like every day something, right? It's, you know, it's the Epstein files, and then Russia sent 19 drones into Poland. But yeah, literally this whole live is just to talk to you guys and see what's going on. And if someone can put in the comments if there's any updates about Colorado. The last update I saw was that 2 students had been injured. I believe one of them was critical. But I as soon as I got back, I had to teach my Bible study, and I haven't seen anything else. So if anybody has an update, that would be great. And I also want to say that, like, it's hard to empathize with Charlie, right? It's hard because two things can be true at the same time. You can say, this is a terrible person who promoted terrible ideas and did so much harm, and at the same time, what happened to him was also terrible and not something I want to live in. And I mean, I didn't know this until later. Like, his fucking wife and kids were right there. And he has a 1 and a 3-year-old. Now, the 1-year-old, thankfully, is not going to remember, but the 3-year-old probably will. And so you can be by saying this is a terrible thing that I don't want to see happen, you're not excusing Charlie's actions and you're not calling him a good person. You can look at him and say, this was a horrible human being and this was fucking tragic. What third world bullshit do I live in? Both of those can be the same, because and you can also have kind of this deep heart understanding of when you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And Charlie, in many ways, Charlie was in the middle of talking about mass shootings, demonizing Black people and trans people in mass shootings when he got shot. You can look at that and say you died on the altar you built. And you can also not revel in it. So like, if you're feeling like I have so many conflicting emotions, they're all kind of valid. You can be sad and you can be angry and you can feel that sense of like, bro, I wish you hadn't gone down this road because that's where this road leads. You can have all of those feelings at the same time. And you can also be angry at the injustice that all the flags were just declared at half-mast for Charlie. That never happened for Melissa Hortman. They didn't even say a word. Like, it was Melissa Hortman and her husband. Not only was it in front of their daughter, but it was the most like clear political assassination we've ever had in my lifetime, at least. Not a word. Crickets. Thoughts and prayers. Maybe. And like most, like there was a couple GOP representatives that were like, yeah, that's what you get. And then they took the tweets down. You know, so it's also completely justified to be angry at the hypocrisy and just be like, really? Really? You know, but Charlie was 31. And it's just like, in such a life of fucking, and I know there's something to be said about the attention and the temporary high it gives you, but man, to live a life just so damn hateful and just not interested in the truth and has no desire for progress, is a really fucking sad way to live. It's a sad way to live and it's a sad way to die. It's just shitty. I got a couple questions here I'm going to check at. How can we remain hopeful? I'm losing hope. When will this end? I'm afraid of martial law being called. I mean, to a degree, DC in its own way it was federal occupation. What helps me, right? Because we're in the bad place. Let's put it that way. Authoritarianism isn't coming. It's here and it's happening. I think what gives me hope, I'll say what gives me hope, because I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak to what gives me hope. What gives me hope is that I know that I only have one choice. And my choice is to get through tomorrow and resist every way I can. And because things are so extreme, that choice is so easy. That choice is so simple. I'm not playing brain games. I'm not sweating the small stuff anymore currently. I'm not worried about little shit because this is so big. And all I have to do is get through and resist tomorrow. That makes me feel a lot more confident, because for me, again, this is my personal viewpoint on life. For me, I would really, if I'm going to live, even if it's a short life, I want to live for something. I want to live knowing that I did something right. And because things are so crystal clear, it's easy for me to make that decision. That's what gives me hope. And also the hope that empires fall. Dictators fall. They never stay there permanently. And the Martin Luther King Jr. said the arc of justice, and how sometimes it's long delayed, but we always arch towards progress. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be part of the machine that moved that wheel, even if it doesn't play out the way that I want it to. But this is with this platform and doing this work has been the first time in my life that I've been 100% sure that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Exactly what I'm supposed to be doing at exactly the right time. And the first time that I have no doubt about, what am I doing? Am I doing enough? Sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough, right? Because things are still happening. But I feel, and yes, Salem in the background has so many opinions. But I do feel like I'm doing the right thing. And one of my heroes is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, which, if you don't know who he is a man who was executed at the very end of World War II, right before his concentration camp was liberated. He was a theologian, a pastor, and also conspired to assassinate Hitler. He was part of the conspiracy to do that. And, just the faith of like, you do what's right because it is right, that gives me so much hope. And also because I see so many people doing the same thing, that I know I'm not the only one. And there are more of us that are good people than there are evil. It's just, man, evil people got a lot of money right now. And I'm only one person, and that's okay. That's okay. I get a lot of inspiration from my grandma, who was a fucking badass when she was back in the 30s and 40s. And, you know, the only option is forward. And are you reading a biography on Dietrich? Because, listen, I'm surrounded by... Right here. It's my favorite. It's my little buddy. Because it gives me so much hope and so much inspiration. And he's someone who didn't make it, you know. But it was worth it anyways. I think, you know, we hear a lot of talk on red pill forums about legacy. Man, legacy is the world you create and you leave behind. And I want to do the best I absolutely can to leave something good behind, to leave something wholesome behind, even if it's for one person. If it's one person that is like, what she did or what she said made my life a little better, that's a win. That's what legacy to me looks like. Yeah, and it's just keeping moving forward. That's how I'm keeping my hope up currently. Let me see. Just looking at some of the questions, sorry. It sometimes freezes and sometimes doesn't. I had a question about, do I think the trans community is going to be targeted more than they already are? I think so, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an accusation of that. But I think that the LGBTQ community as a whole, but honestly, anyone who's progressive or left-leaning, they're going to use the terms like radical, terrorist, despite whoever this person is or for whatever reason they did it. That's going to be the rhetoric, and they're going to use that against anyone who is left-leaning in any regard. But I think it's much easier to demonize the trans and queer community because there's not as many of them. And, you know, bullies always pick on the little guy. What are some of these other questions? What are your personal convictions on how the attention economy shaped today's events and response? And by attention economy, I think you're meaning like social media and like celebrity as it has changed in the past, 10 years. I mean, Charlie Kirk's platform came from attention economy, right? Like if you listen to his debates, he's not interested in the truth. He's not interested in debating. He's interested in talking points. But it gave him his fame and his money and Turning Point USA. I think there's two sides to this coin. In large part, the left versus right dynamic has been dramatically escalated by the attention economy. And that has been used and propagandized both by Russia 10 years ago and now by both political parties to help us forget that it's not left versus right. It's really top versus bottom pretty consistently. But on the other side of that, the attention media that we get now is one of the only ways we have right now to rapid fire response to news and get news out there and get things published before it can be silenced, edited, and altered. Like, can you imagine if all of this was happening in the 1970s? Like Nixon got away with what he did for so long because we didn't have access to media like this. We didn't have the ability to go into congressional records and things like that. So it's kind of this double-edged sword of, yes, the attention economy contributed to what happened today and has contributed to the divide. It's also contributing to our ability to access information and like do what we can to stop the onslaught, so to speak. So I think it's a little bit of both in that regard. So it says, how are you doing, Monty? I know you're always focusing on others, but what about you these days? I'm doing okay. I tend to do pretty well under pressure. Today was hard for me. I was really, really sad, and I was really aware of where this is going to lead and what's going to happen. And the violence that I think is going to escalate made me really sad. And also, like, it dramatically increased conversations about my safety. I had to call, or my management company called me. I have a speaking engagement I may have to cancel. I gig with my band pretty regularly, and the band and I have to have a conversation about whether or not it's safe for me to be on stage right now because of where we perform. So it's tough and it's sad. I would say overall, though, I'm doing pretty okay. But again, I do pretty well under pressure and high stress. And also, like, when my platform started taking off in February, I made the decision that if I was going to do this, I was going to be all in, and I was going to tell the truth, and I was going to apologize when I make mistakes, and I was going to be all in, all out there, and I wasn't going to turn back no matter how scary it got. And so that's a commitment that I've made to myself, that regardless what the outcome is, I'm going to be there doing what I can. And there aren't any conversations right now about leaving Tennessee. I have had conversations about leaving Nashville depending on what happens in the spring. Nashville is considering taking away their city charter, which would put us directly under federal control, because Christian nationalists are trying to establish a major city that would basically be run as a Christian nationalist society. And if they do that here, I will not be here for obvious reasons. Yeah, it's that. So, and with the band, I will say that even if I'm not performing live in Nashville, I will still be working on the album. We'll still be releasing the album. We'll still be performing. But it's definitely, you know, I've had to have some conversations with some close friends that are security certified saying, hey, would you be interested in doing some private events? Because, and like I said, I went and bought some bulletproof gear just to have it. And I have to be very cautious about announcing where I am or what I'm doing or where I'm traveling, which is, you know, pretty intimidating, par for the course. I mean, I will say, a month and a half ago, I had somebody recognize me in downtown Nashville and try to take a beer bottle to my head. So it's not the first time. But I also do have emergency plans in place that if there was an immediate threat to my safety, I have places to go. Don't like thinking about that. But again, I like to be grounded in reality. I would rather be prepared and not need it than to not be prepared and kind of caught, you know, unawares. So Nashville is pretty liberal. Nashville and Memphis are. But that's why we're kind of getting penalized, because our state legislature is a red supermajority. And they hate that Nashville and Memphis are blue. Like last year, they just arbitrarily reduced our city council from 40 to 20 people, just for funsies. And they announced the Tesla tunnel here without taking a vote. And so we don't have a lot of power. It is a blue area, but we don't have a lot of power in that regard. But I'm also, you know, really hopeful that, wait, was there another Blackstone shooting? Yes, a lot of this does feel very Handmaid's Tale, but like, what I will say, another part of my hope is that like this fever is going to break. Like the economy cannot sustain fundamentalist policies because they don't work. They don't, you know, Republicans' greatest lie was that they're fiscally responsible. They're the biggest spenders and they always drive up the deficit. We can't survive the tariffs. Farmers are already struggling. 30% of their crops isn't getting sold. But so what's going to happen is the fever is going to break. It will break. It will, because the economy can't sustain it. And the economy is always the turning point. But what I don't know is how bad it's going to get before that fever breaks, because so many people are so indoctrinated. And many of them are so far in the cult and they truly believe that if they deviate from Republicanism or MAGA or whatever version of it they're in, that they're going to go to hell, because, you know, asking questions is defying God, which I don't believe. But it's really hard for people to get out. But I will also say that people are getting out. I've had several people come over to my Patreon and I'm getting messages like, hey, I've been in the cult for 40 years. My eyes are open. I'm aware now. How do I help? Where do I learn? Can you give me books to read? I really need to change this. I want to help. So there are people leaving. And I think that this moment with Charlie is also going to fracture people further. Epstein fractured a group of them. This is going to fracture it further, because there's going to be the group of people that it incentivizes to create more violence. And there's going to be a group of people that are like, yo, what is happening? This is not worth it. So it will break. It's just a question of how long does that take? I know my cats are just, they're having a moment, you know, they can tell when I'm stressed, so they start talking a little bit more. When you say cult, what are you referring to? MAGA and Trump and Christian fundamentalism, Christian nationalism, kind of in general. What is Mr. Rosario's question? I didn't see that question, so if you could repost that. And I'm going to stay on for about 5-10 more minutes. I just wanted to check in on everybody and see how everyone's doing. Yeah, I didn't see. So Mr. Rosario's question, I didn't see it. So if you can post that. Sully, baby. It's okay, honey. I'm almost done. He's my firstborn. I never thought I'd be a cat person, but now I can't imagine not having cats, because they came in and rescued me. What made you change your views that you grew up with? So I used to say that it really happened when I was 23 and I met a 12-year-old rape victim who had gotten pregnant. Her mother's boyfriend had been raping her for 3 years. And it really radically changed my views on what I had been taught. And it was the first time that caused me to really start to do research on my own, which I did, and realized I'd been lied to my whole life. That was kind of a big, that was my wake up moment. But now when I look back on my life, I realized that even as young as 9, I understood that, how the church was treating women was wrong, and I always had an issue with it. I had an issue with how marriage counselors would tell a woman to stay in an abusive relationship, or how at 9 years old I was told I couldn't wear a sleeveless shirt because it might make men stumble. And when I asked the teacher why men should be leaders if they can't control themselves, she threw me out of Sunday school, and I wasn't allowed to be back in that Sunday school, and I had to go to adult church from then on. So I can look back now on my life and realize, I always kind of knew that some of this was wrong. I just really believed that it was, it's my sinful nature, I'm defying God. It took a long time to get out of that, but it was really meeting this very young rape victim that was the big change for me. If you'd like to hear kind of like a bigger version of my life story, if you go to my podcast, Flipping Tables, on Spotify, Apple, episode 13 is my story, where I just talk about what happened to me kind of in a longer form. And someone asked, what's the difference between a Christian and a Christian nationalist? There's some key differences. So a Christian nationalist, Christian fundamentalists are typically in the same group, but they're not necessarily. But a Christian nationalist believes in American exceptionalism. So they're gonna give you the whole thing. America's a Christian nation. We were founded as a Christian nation. We're specially chosen by God. We're the greatest, most specialist, awesomest country in the world, and we never make mistakes. And how dare you talk about slavery? That's Christian nationalists. They also believe in the marriage of the Republican Party with Christianity, that if you are a Christian, you have to vote Republican, and that there's no exclusion to that. They also believe in biblical literalism, which means that they take the Bible and they read it 100% literally. This is 100% the word of God. We should take it very literally, even though they don't follow it. Those are 3 key things. I think the biggest thing that's going to be your kind of giveaway, the dead giveaway, if you will, is going to be how they view the United States. If they view it as this is a Christian nation, it should only be Christians. America is so exceptional and wonderful. And then if they refer to Paul in the Old Testament more than they refer to Jesus. Like, real Christians understand that religious freedom is important. Christian nationalists don't believe in religious pluralism. They don't actually believe that all religions should be equally free to worship. In the United States, they believe that those special kind of exceptions should only be like for Christians. So that's why they believe the 10 Commandments should be on the wall in public schools, and that there should be Christian prayers in public schools. And if you don't do that, well, then you're persecuting them, because to them, persecution is anything other than having dominance and special privileges. Those are really the key differences between a Christian nationalist and a Christian. And someone I saw, can you do a video of your view of 9/11? I have a podcast episode that came out today on my view of 9/11. It's called Weapons of Mass Deception. That came out today. Someone put it, what are your view on gun rights? So I'm a gun owner. I've been a gun owner most of my life. I do believe in gun reform, especially because we clearly have the evidence that gun violence is a major, major problem. And as someone who is a responsible gun owner, I have zero issue doing an extensive background check or a waiting period or a psychological evaluation to get a gun if it prevents someone from taking a gun into schools. And I think that it should absolutely be illegal to outfit a weapon to be fully automatic. There's no reason for that. There's no reason for that. But again, I'm a gun owner, have been most of my life, and I think that we can absolutely be gun owners with responsible gun reform, because I don't value my ability to own a big fancy gun I don't use except on the target range more than I value the lives of kids. That's kind of how that goes. And I'm absolutely happy to do a reel. I'll do a reel tomorrow. I think I have time tomorrow to do a reel on the Christians versus Christian nationalism and some of those key distinctions, because it is important, and it's going to be progressively more important to recognize that, because unfortunately all Christians kind of get swept into the Christian nationalist Republican rug, because that's been their talking point. We're the party of Christianity, and the Bible says, and I'm like, you've never read the Bible, bitch. Sit down. But I can do that. I can do a video on that. I'm just going to take a couple more questions. How do I live without so much fear? Honestly, and this is going to sound really kitschy, and I'm sorry, but it's true. Because of how I grew up in this movement around a lot of violence, I grew up with a lot of abuse, and I moved out of my parents' house when I was 15, and I've had to live through so much fear when I was very, very young, that it's not that I don't feel fear. I definitely feel fear. Like today I had to really check myself and be like, am I being safe? Am I going to get shot? Am I, like, you have to have, but because I've dealt with so much fear, I feel that I've become better at handling it. I'm better at managing it and not letting it stop me. For what I went through as a kid, because it's helped me be able to manage this. Oh, someone said, see my nails. There it is. These are my gentle fall nails, if you will. But yeah, so I just want to tell you all that, like, it is okay to be afraid. Courage does not exist without fear. The way that faith doesn't exist without doubt. They have to have each other, because if you're not courageous unless you're doing something while you're afraid, it's not faith if you have zero doubt or questions. Remember that you have a community, and that there are so many more sane people than there are the screaming loud ones, that there is an army of people around you supporting you, especially those of you in the trans and LGBTQ community. There is an army of people. I know that it doesn't feel like that all the time. And someone mentioned, do I talk to my parents now? My parents passed away, so I don't have any parents or grandparents, which is another thing that helps with my courage as someone who's not married. I don't have kids. I don't have family. It makes it so that I can take a little bit more risk, what I call righteous risk. I can take risk in a more forward way that someone that maybe has kids or elderly parents couldn't. And I'm honored to have that opportunity. But I want you to know that I love you all, that there is still hope, that feeling scared, feeling angry, feeling outraged, feeling heartbroken are all valid. Don't let it decenter who you are. One of the biggest things about what's happening around us is that we can't let it change who we are as people. And that's something that I would really just sit with, because we deserve to live in a country where everyone is treated equally. There's no reason two adults shouldn't be able to marry each other. There's no reason that religion should be legislated. There's no reason that people should be at risk medically. There's no reason for it. We are the wealthiest country in the world. We don't have an excuse. So let me just give you that encouragement. I hope it's encouragement. Take care of yourself too. Remember, like in an airplane where they tell you put your own oxygen mask on before helping others, make sure you're sleeping and drinking water and exercising. And that's not just because of my background as an exercise physiologist and a trainer, but because it will help you in the long term to stay the course. It will give you a place to output some of this energy, which is healthy for you in the long run. And if you guys have other questions, or if you have a topic you'd like me to cover on my podcast or anything like that, and my podcast is Flipping Tables, both on Spotify and Apple. But if you have questions, email me at info@montymater.com and I will get to them as soon as I can. I really want to build a community here. I have my community on Patreon. We're starting a Discord. We also have the podcast. If I can help in any way that I'm not doing enough of, please let me know. I do the best I can with 24 hours. But there's one more question. Okay, so Mr. Rosario asked how minors can defend themselves from harm in school. He's worried for the future. So minors in schools, what I will say is the best thing you can do is preparedness. Obviously they can't defend themselves, with weapons because they're in school. I would really consider maybe talking to emergency response people, anyone that you know that's worked in law enforcement or the military, and teach them what to do in that situation. And it's not about just knowing what to do, it's about practicing it with them. So like school shooting drills, but a little bit more personal. Make sure that your child individually knows what to do. And if you are the minor and you're asking this, you're like, I'm 14, I don't know what to do. Start asking questions. Like if your parents are safe, talk to your parents, see if you can get in touch with someone who used to work in law enforcement or the military, and practice those things. Because once you practice it in an emergency response, you'll be more equipped to handle it. I used to be basic life support certified. And that's just what you just have to do it over and over and over so that it's autopilot for you. And someone asked me, my Patreon is in my bio, and you can just click on it and go over and join us over there. I'm going to be doing some lives over there and some talks and and some guided meditations. I think people need to kind of, myself included. So I love you. Take care. I would show you the kitties, but they're over in the abyss. And I'll see you tomorrow with news recaps and more information coming your way.